Hello. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. It is 7:15 in the morning on this day. There's going to be a few things that I'm going to have to get through on this because I have quite a few thoughts. But yes. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk. So yesterday, in reference to today, which is September 11th. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk was shot. Some say assassinated. I would agree. Assassinated by somebody at a speaking event in Utah. I think it was like a turning point thing. And he was shot in front of innumerable people, including his family, some friends of his, I'm sure, as well as a bunch of others that were there to debate him about whatever topics they were talking about. I'm sure it went over, crime, trans people's gun violence. Of course. I see a lot of talk about this event on the internet from both. I hate to both side this at the front, but I think it's important to make the point. Both sides saying, oh, this is bad, or whatever it is. But there's a particular side that is of interesting note about the entire event. I will not be commenting specifically on what is being said on this said side, but what I will be doing is making a few points on what is being said, and I'll make that more clear as we go along. This part's going to be very, very quick and very simple. Okay? Charlie Kirk did have a family, has a wife, and I think he had like 3 kids, 2 or 3, something like that. I'm not all up in the guy's personal life, so I have no clue. He had family in attendance when he got shot right in the neck and is dead. He is now dead. I feel empathy and compassion for his family. I do not feel empathy or compassion for him. I think, as much as I think this act was an evil act, like him getting shot and getting murdered and assassinated, I believe Charlie Kirk was an evil person. Truthfully. I don't think, I even before I started recording, I was trying to figure out if I disagreed with him, or not disagreed, if I agreed with him on anything, but I think I disagreed with literally everything that guy said. And I don't mean that like truly literally. He says, oh, crime is bad, murder is bad. Yeah, of course, I would agree. But I mean like in his like personal politics, like how he wants the world to be, his role of women, how he views the gay LGBT whoever. his views on guns. I hate to like bring irony into this, but the whole idea behind what he's advocating for with guns is why it is part of the reason, at least, why he got shot at. And I hate to say it as bluntly as that is, but if we had less guns, the likelihood of him getting shot and murdered would be significantly less, as would everybody else's likelihood. And that's just the fact of the matter. That's not like a funny haha. I'm saying that very bluntly and matter-of-factly. I think Charlie Kirk's support of Donald Trump was evil. I don't think people make this whole debacle about the rhetoric online or whatever it is, or people's rhetoric in the media. I don't think rhetoric really is that important. I don't think people are going to CNN.com, reading a headline and becoming radicalized or murderous based off headlines. I really don't think that's happening. Unless, there are obviously people who are sick in the head. Duh, of course. But for the vast majority of every U.S. citizen, that just isn't what's happening. Read the headlines and get mad about them? Okay, sure. But going out and committing violence based on a headline? Absolutely not. Maybe my goodwill towards people is too high. I expect people to actually read the things that they're looking up or read an article or something. Maybe I'm delusional. I have no clue. The idea fundamentally, though, is that nobody's getting radicalized off of headlines, okay? Nobody's becoming murderous off of headlines. I think that's generally good to say. However, I'll make it abundantly clear, I do not and I will not say Charlie Kirk getting shot and dying is worthy of my compassion and empathy. I mean that as nicely as I can say it. There was I became truly, totally cold and just at a wall with conservatism a little while ago when a trans person committed suicide. There was a picture they had posted. They were on a bridge. They jumped off a bridge. I think they climbed to the top or something, or they otherwise died. They committed suicide off of a bridge, and it was a trans person. And the person died. They committed suicide. And a vast load of innumerable conservative pundits, I will say. I don't know if it was strict politicians, but conservative pundits made fun of that person for dying. Not of somebody getting shot at or somebody shooting somebody else, but they committed suicide. Because they couldn't work with the world anymore. And they were made fun of. Then I think it was, I don't know, the timelines of all of these things is very strange, but when Paul Pelosi got smashed in the head with a hammer, people made fun of that too. And then when that Minnesota lawmaker, and I think it was her husband or something like that, when she got politically assassinated, they made fun of that too. I don't mean to laugh, but that's kind of like what the point I'm making is. I am at odds very deeply with any movement that is even partially aligned with anything that is hateful of other, and I mean hate, like, I mean, if you want to discriminate against people, you know what, that's totally cool and all, but I don't want to associate with you. Like, I really don't. That's fine. I don't want. I think the world, or the US anyway, I've never been to a different country, but I think the US would be better off with you in a different place, legitimately. And and that's just the fact of the matter. I don't want people being assassinated just willy-nilly because other people think that is fine to do so. As far as it goes for being a Christian, the only person that can take life away from other people is God. Because it is his and his alone to have. I don't feel bad for Charlie Kirk getting shot. I don't think anybody should. I've seen the video. It's pretty bad. It's gross. Not good. I don't want to see it ever again. Unfortunately, it's going to get shared around the internet forever and ever now. We're already seeing a bunch of right-winger pundit peoples mobilize against this. Like, this is war. The left is we don't know who the person is. We don't even know who shot anybody. And supposedly this is all because of the left. This is civil war. Okay. There's a particularly poignant reason I'm including this in my On Being Arrested series. I will eventually detail this whenever I get done and over with all of my nonsense. There's this satire news website called The Hard Times. They, within just hours after Charlie Kirk being shot, they have a headline up that just says, "Anti-vaxxer gets shot." And a bunch of, I'll say like right-wing peoples or conservatives or whatever it is, got really mad at this and were commenting and sharing how despicable it was. But we'll have no problem making fun of a trans person committing suicide. And making jokes at the expense of a person who committed suicide. It's one thing to make jokes about somebody who had their life taken involuntarily. But for someone committing suicide, they can make all the jokes they want. As long as it's about a marginalized group of people, right? This is all set upon the backdrop of, this happened just yesterday, and now today it's September 11th, 9/11. 24 years ago, 9/11. Awful day. Numerous people died. I don't know enough about the ins and outs of politics of the time to understand why those things were done the way that they were. However, even if it was an act of political violence, in defiance of XYZ thing or in protestation for the US being wherever they were doing whatever or whatever it is. Again, I don't know, but a lot of people died during 9/11. I was pulled out of school, I was in what, pre-K? Yeah, I was like, or maybe I was in kindergarten, something like that. I was pulled out of one of the two right when it happened, and they shut down they shut down school for like a week. It was over for like a week because of everything that was happened. And we see memes about it now, 9/11, with George W. Bush sitting in the chair and the guy whispering in his ear. There are memes about whatever memes are about using that like image. This is all to say that like political violence in any facet has been both rallied against and justified by whatever group. Nobody in their right mind, and here's the spicy take, nobody in their right mind thinks the Boston Tea Party was a bad thing. Nobody in their right mind thinks the American Revolution was a bad thing. Nobody in their right mind thinks that the more violent protests during the civil rights movement were a bad thing, because they were, unless you're Charlie Kirk, who says that the Civil Rights Act was bad. And I don't mean that in like a mean way, but that's just what he said. And then he just didn't agree with it, I guess. When John Brown, what is it, Harper's Ferry, nobody thought that was bad. We could strategize post-emptively and say, oh, they could have done this thing, oh, they could have done this instead. Okay, that's great. However, they didn't. Nobody thinks that World War II and what the Allies fought for is bad. No good person, at least. We still have, unfortunately, Nazis today. But no good person thinks that the Allies were the bad people. So, that's all I'll say. This is not an advocation for danger, for violence, or for guns, or for shootings. I'm not advocating for shooting or hurting anybody. Never done it, never going to. Unfortunately, though, I think this is going to be used by a lot of bad actors. And they're going to use this as an effort to mobilize against a whole other separate group of people that had nothing to do with anything. We're already seeing it online. All of those same pundits, libs of TikTok, Laura Loomer, Starbuck, Gunther Eagleman, all of these people are saying all of this nonsense. This is civil war, or whatever. Whatever. Do I think that would actually happen in today's political climate? I think it might, legitimately. But do I think that they're going to be people that like spark it? Probably not. No. Fact of the matter is, though, that there are just some people on the planet. There are just some people. The world would be a better place without some people. Again, it'll make sense at the end of all of this why I put this in the On Being Arrested playlist. And I'll detail that when that comes up. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.